Baby. Enjoy this great game.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Humm Baby Baseball channel. This is Eric, and today, Pete Rose is absolutely desperate to get in the Hall of Fame. He is not giving up. He has written a passionate letter to the commissioner, and we will check out that letter. I'll give my thoughts on Pete Rose. Obviously, Pete Rose has been banned from the game for many years since he was betting on the game as manager of the Cincinnati Reds, and because he's banned from the game, he cannot get in the Hall of Fame because the Hall of Fame created a rule that if you're banned from the game, you're not eligible to be elected into the Hall of Fame. So Pete Rose making a last-ditch effort in hopes of getting in the Baseball Hall of Fame. He wants to get that ban lifted and sent an incredibly emotional letter. We have that letter. We're going to check it out here. He sent that to Rob Manfred to plead his case. Charlie Hustle has been public enemy number one in Cooperstown ever since his infamous betting scandal came to light, and he hasn't even been able to sniff the voters' ballot as a result. But now he's 81 years old, and that's the key right here, 81 years old. And in other words, he doesn't know how much time he's got left. So he wants to at least get on that ballot. Understandable. But of course, the rule he broke was the cardinal sin in baseball. You don't bet on the game. There's a sign in every clubhouse, and the punishment is known by everyone. Does that mean I agree with that punishment? I mean, I get why it is that way. It goes back to the 1919 Black Sox scandal, where the White Sox actually threw the World Series, or at least some members of the team threw the World Series, which just cannot happen. So betting cannot be allowed, and this is just how it has to be. It's unfortunate that the guy who does it, who gets banned from the game, is Charlie Hustle, one of the hardest playing players of all time and the hit king. A first ballot, no-brainer Hall of Famer, one of the greatest to play the game, happens to be the guy who is gambling on the game as a manager. But that rule never actually said you can't get in the Hall of Fame. It just said you're banned from the game. The Hall of Fame themselves made the rule after that happened that, hey, if you're banned from the game, you can't get in the Hall. It kind of makes sense. But on the other hand, I think the voters should get to decide that. If you're banned from the game and you've done something so terrible, you're not going to get in anyway. As we know, the voters don't vote for anybody. It's really hard to get in. And that's what I was about to talk about. Like, even if Pete Rose convinces Rob Manfred, which he won't, to go ahead and lift the ban and say, okay, Pete Rose, you're not banned from baseball anymore. Well, what happens then? He doesn't just get in the Hall of Fame. Rob Manfred can't just put him in the Hall of Fame. He doesn't have that kind of power. All he can do is lift the ban, and then I assume that he would go on the ballot like any other player, because he's obviously been retired more than 5 years, so he would go on the ballot for the 10-year period that he would be eligible. But do you think that these voters, that these writers would vote him in? I don't. Maybe. I mean, I think the first couple of years on the ballot, if he actually got on the ballot, he would get 40%, something like that. Maybe just like in the case of the steroid guys, you get a little more and more as the voters get younger and a little more forgiving. And maybe on his 8, 9, maybe 10th year, maybe he gets in. In other words, even if Rob Manfred lifted the ballot right now and Pete Rose got on the ballot next, or he lifted the ban and Pete Rose got on the ballot next year, if that were the case, Pete Rose, you're going to have to live to about 92 years old, I think, to have a chance. And even then, he may not get in. What then? You got to wait for the Veterans Committee. I hope you're pushing it into the hundreds. That's about the only way. And that's all assuming Rob Manfred lifts the ban, which I don't think he will, and I don't think anyone will. So I frankly don't think Pete Rose will get in his lifetime. I can't predict 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years in the future. He may get in someday, you know, as society changes and different commissioners change and how we look back, especially after someone's passed away, kind of messed up. I really hate when someone gets in the Hall of Fame right after they've passed away, when they've been trying to get in for years and years and years. But I digress. Back to Pete Rose. Let's just check out the letter. Let's not mess around. Let's check out this letter. This is a little snippet of it here, but I actually have the entire letter right here. Here it is right here. So let's check out this letter. It says, I have apologized to Rob Manfred. I have apologized many times for betting on baseball while managing the Cincinnati Reds, and then for denying that I did. And that's a key thing too. He denied it for years until he wrote a book finally admitting to it. And it had been many years after the initial scandal. I'm writing today for 3 reasons. First, because of my age, I want to be 100% sure that you understand how much I mean when I say I'm sorry. Second, to ask for your forgiveness. And third, because I still think every day about what it would mean to be considered for the Hall of Fame. The two most important people in my life were my dad and my manager, Sparky Anderson. My dad introduced me to baseball and Sparky taught me how to play it. Both set an example for me about how to live my life that I sometimes have failed to live up to. I think every day about them. I know I disappointed them, and I hope that they would still be proud of me. What helped me set me down the right path was the commissioner, Giamatti, telling me to reconfigure my life and the belief that they were watching me and I didn't want to disappoint them anymore. But that didn't really set you down the right path, right? Because even after that, after Commissioner Giamatti said that, he still continued to deny, and he still even gambles. And I'm not saying he can't gamble. Pete Rose is an adult. He's not part of baseball anymore. He can gamble all he wants. Matter of fact, he is going to be setting the first legal sports bet at the Hard Rock Casino. So he's still involved in casinos and gambling. And like I said, it's perfectly legal, perfectly fine. As an adult, he can do that. But, you know, he's not even taking the approach of, I had an addiction. Like, I had an addiction and it was an illness. I'm over it now. That would, I think, hold some weight. But he can't even say that because he still gambles to this day. And it's just, I don't think it's a great look for someone who's trying to get away from that and get into the Hall of Fame and be accepted again into baseball. Again, nothing wrong with gambling. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying for this particular individual, trying to get in the Hall of Fame, if that's really the priority, maybe you leave gambling behind a little bit. But anyway, moving on. I also know that I disappointed many Reds fans. Besides spending time with my kids and my partner, there's nothing that made me happier than playing baseball in front of fans. That I let them down, brought shame to the sport we all love, is something I think about every day. It is also among my greatest regrets that I let down fans who believed in me and who loved baseball. It is also among my greatest regrets that I let down my teammates and everyone I ever shared a baseball field with. I can't imagine how painful. You can't imagine how painful it is when I see my teammates from all the great fans I played on, players I played against, go about their lives in ways I wanted to. What can you say? I want to be part of that too, and I know I probably never will. I'm so grateful for the time I shared with them on and off the field, blah, blah, blah. Now, there are places that people think you move on after you leave the game. You do in many ways, but the most important parts of baseball should grow even stronger. I screwed that up. You did. I'm asking for your forgiveness despite my many mistakes. I'm so proud of what I accomplished as a baseball player. I'm the hit king. It is my dream to be considered for the Hall of Fame. Like all of us, I believe in accountability. I'm 81 years old and know that I've been held accountable, and I hold myself accountable right now for another chance. That's the letter from Pete Rose. I just kind of wanted to read through it. And, you know, these kind of letters, it's hard to say. You know, he has a lot of money. He can have someone help him make this very emotional letter. I don't know if he wrote it on his own or had help. But either way, I do believe one thing for sure. He genuinely wants to be in the Hall of Fame. Is he genuinely sorry? And is all this, you know, from the heart? You know, who's to say? Only Pete Rose knows for sure. I personally think that the Hall of Fame should go ahead and say, you know, we can make exceptions. They're the Hall of Fame. They make the rules, not Rob Manfred. Rob Manfred can lift the ban, but the Hall of Fame makes the rules as far as preventing him from being able to get in the Hall of Fame. So the Hall of Fame could make an exception if they wanted to, or change that rule, or at least amend that rule a little bit if they wanted to allow Pete Rose on the ballot. But, you know, he's going the path of asking Rob Manfred to lift the ban, and I just don't think that's going to happen. If he was going to lift the ban, he would have lifted the ban by now. We've been through this. We've been down this road. But if you want my opinion, I do think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame, but I don't think that the ban should be lifted. Now, you might say, well, that doesn't make sense. But to me, it does, because the ban means if you bet on the game, you're just not allowed to be part of the game. You're not allowed to be part of the game because there is a problem with the integrity of the game. If we have someone in the game who might be betting on the game and making decisions based on his bets, we can't have that. We can't have that as part of the game as a player, manager, or coach. It just can't happen. So you're banned from being on a team. You can't be in uniform. But that shouldn't mean that you can't get in the Hall of Fame for your accomplishments on the field during your career, especially during your playing career. I think the voters should get to decide. So the rule I really disagree with is that Hall of Fame saying if you're banned from the, I know it makes sense in a way, I get it, but still let the voters decide. Let the voters decide. The voters might say, okay, this guy made a mistake when he was older as a manager, but he still had an absolute, this is the hit king, he needs a plaque. Maybe. I don't think they would let him in, but at least give him a chance. But like I said, at this point, unless Rob Manfred lifts the ban right now, Pete Rose is not going to live to see the day. And even if he did lift the ban right now, I think Pete Rose is going to have to make it into his 90s because I don't think he gets in on the first ballot. Those are just some of my thoughts. Let me know down below what you guys think of Pete Rose begging to get in. Personally, I would have given up a long time ago, I think. I mean, I never played Major League Baseball, so I guess I don't know, and much less a Hall of Fame career. So I don't know how it feels to be in that situation. But I would think, like, you know, you don't see Barry Bonds begging or anything. I mean, Barry Bonds was on the ballot, so I guess, you know, what can you beg for? But I'm just saying, sometimes you just let it go, live your life, man. Everyone knows you're the hit king. We know Pete Rose. Pete Rose is great. I got his autograph here. I'm a Pete Rose fan because he played the game so hard, ran everything out, played the game with passion. I don't know if he's a great person, but I'm a fan of him as a baseball player. So there you have it. You guys, let me know what you think down below. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and we'll talk to you next time.